All right, let's set the scene. It took one exhausted guard, one prison seamstress with a dangerous crush, and one innocent-looking pack of frozen hamburger meat to bring New York's most feared fortress to its knees. We're talking about Clinton Correctional Facility in Dannemora, a place people were only supposed to leave in a hearse. Yet on a June night in 2015, two convicted murderers didn't just leave, they strolled out, popping out of a manhole a mile down the road. Meanwhile, back in their cells, their shockingly realistic dummies were sleeping soundly under the covers, fooling everyone. How in the world does half a ton of steel, state-of-the-art motion sensors, and sniper towers get outsmarted by a little bit of ground chuck? No, seriously, how does that happen? Stick around, because this isn't just an escape story. This is the story of the one-week link that snapped and brought a maximum security prison crashing down. Section 1. Castle in the Snow. Clinton Correctional, or Dannemora, is buried deep in a tiny, isolated village 5 hours north of Manhattan. Up there, winter isn't just cold, it's 20 below zero cold, with snowdrifts that tower over the prison's 30-foot walls. Locals call the perimeter road the Snowflake Freeway, because any inmate dumb enough to try escaping on foot would likely freeze solid before reaching the county line. Opened in 1845 and modernized in the 80s, this place prided itself on being impenetrable. We're talking a 1-to-1 guard-to-inmate ratio in the Otter Block, infrared beams, and gates so tough the rhino couldn't bust through them. The staff called it Little Siberia. The prisoners? They called it the end of the world. If you were at Dannemora, parole was a punchline. The only way out was supposed to be in a body bag. But then Richard Matt and David Sweat showed up, and they had a very different exit strategy in mind. Section 2. Meet the players. First, there was Richard Matt, 49 years old, and already a legend for a previous escape where he busted out of a Mexican jail by climbing a tower and tight-roping across power lines. This guy was doing 25 to life for kidnapping, torturing, and dismembering his former boss. Charming, built like a linebacker, he could talk his way into or out of anything. His partner was David Sweat, 34, the quiet, intense one. He was serving life without parole for murdering a sheriff's deputy. Sweat had a high IQ and an obsession with drawing, filling sketchbooks with impossibly detailed blueprints of tunnels and castles. Both men landed in the honor block for good behavior, which ironically gave them more freedom to watch, to learn, and to plot. And that's where Joyce Tilly Mitchell comes in. A 51-year-old supervisor in the prison's tailor shop, Tilly had worked there for nearly 3 decades without a single write-up. She was married, lived in a quiet modular home, and according to co-workers, had a thing for bad boys who paid her attention. Matt and Sweat were master observers. They noticed, and the game was on. Section 3. Grooming the weak link. It always starts small. A compliment on her glasses. A shared, whispered joke. Soon, Joyce Mitchell, feeling seen for the first time in years, was bringing them little treats. But the favors escalated. First, it was art supplies for Matt, who sketched her portrait to make her feel beautiful. Then it was real tools, hacksaw blades, chisels, and screwdriver bits. Why? Investigators believe she was profoundly lonely and bored, completely infatuated with the romance and attention the two charismatic killers lavished on her. Inmates have nothing but time to become master manipulators of human emotion. By February 2015, Tilly was smuggling tools inside frozen hamburger meat, walking them right past security in a cooler marked staff lunch. The guards who'd known her for decades just waved her through. With every wave, another link in the chain of security corroded, getting closer to its breaking point. Section 4. Anatomy of an Escape. Every night inside their adjoining cells, Matt and Sweat ran a secret workshop. Using the hacksaw blades Tilly smuggled in, they painstakingly cut a hole in the steel wall behind a bunk. To hide their work from inspections, they patched the hole with a paste of wet toilet paper and soap, dyed to match the paint. For 3 months they worked, muffling the noise with stolen headphones and blankets. Finally, they broke through into a 6-foot-wide steam pipe. It was a subterranean highway, hot, claustrophobic, and winding its way right under the prison. But crucially, it led to a maze of unpatrolled maintenance tunnels. They mapped it all, memorizing every turn. Meanwhile, Tilly promised to be their getaway driver. The final touch. Dummies made of sweatshirts with painted sneakers for heads, tucked into their beds to fool the 11 p.m. count. Just after midnight on June 6th, they slipped through the hole in the wall and vanished into the darkness. Section 5. The night the walls failed. At 5:17 a.m., a guard doing his rounds felt a prickle of unease. The lumps in Matt and Sweat's bunks were too still. He ripped back the covers and found pillows and painted sneakers staring back at him. Not men, props. Within minutes, sirens shattered the morning quiet of the Adirondacks. A massive manhunt was on, with hundreds of officers flooding the area. Bloodhounds tracked the scent to a manhole a mile from the prison, but by then, the killers had a massive head start. The story went viral, dominating the news for 3 weeks. Locals who never locked their doors were now armed and barricaded. Under questioning, Tilly cracked. She confessed to smuggling the tools and the meat, and to the getaway plan she ultimately chickened out on. She sobbed that she got in over her head and just wanted them to think she was special. Her husband later revealed she had planned to bake him a pie that weekend. Instead of baking, she was arrested, and her 28-year career ended in total disgrace. Section 6. Manhunt and Mayhem. The hunt was relentless. For 23 days, more than 1,000 officers scoured the dense New York wilderness. On day 20, there was a break. Richard Matt, drunk and desperate, tried to steal a camper and was shot dead by a U.S. Border Patrol agent. The first escape, he was down. 2 days later, State Police Sergeant Jay Cook, on patrol alone, spotted David Sweat jogging near the Canadian border. Starving and exhausted, Sweat made a run for the tree line, but the sergeant shot him twice and captured him. Sweat later confessed their plan was to make it to Mexico. Both men rode back to Clinton Correctional, though this time to the super secure solitary confinement unit. The state, embarrassed and exposed, spent millions retrofitting the prison. They installed new sensors inside the steam pipes and mandated polygraphs for civilian staff. It was a massive, expensive overhaul. But none of it would have been necessary if one trusted employee had just said no. Section 7. The bigger picture. The Dannemora Escape is a flashing neon sign pointing to an uncomfortable truth. The most advanced lock is useless if someone on the inside hands over the key. In the wake of the escape, corrections departments nationwide began auditing their civilian employees. What they found was chilling. Georgia caught a baker smuggling phones inside loaves of bread. Arizona busted a teacher using hollowed-out Harry Potter books to ferry heroin. These incidents and countless others prove that human nature, loneliness, greed, blackmail is the universal skeleton key that can unlock any system. You can harden the concrete, but no one has invented a cure for temptation. Take South Carolina's Lee Correctional in 2018. There were no tunnels or hacksaws, just a cheap burner phone smuggled in by a guard who was in financial trouble. With that one phone, inmates ran a sophisticated drug ring from their cells. They coordinated deals with the outside world, ordered hits on rivals, and ultimately sparked a gang war inside the prison that left 7 inmates dead and 17 others seriously injured, all because one officer made one terrible decision. That year, authorities confiscated thousands of phones from inmates, proving you don't need to break out of prison if you can run an empire from your bunk. Or look at the case of Charles Walker in Florida in 2013. No violence, no elaborate digging, but just a man who was very good with Photoshop. Walker created incredibly realistic but completely fake court documents that reduced his life sentence to time served. He mailed them to the clerk's office. A few days later, the paperwork was processed and he simply walked out the front gate a free man. The overworked court staff never suspected a thing. He was recaptured 2 weeks later, but only because a probation officer doing a routine check noticed the forgery. It was a stunning reminder that sometimes a little ingenuity is all it takes to beat the system, especially when that system is run by overwhelmed humans. Section 8. Cost of a compromise. Back in Dannemora, Joyce Mitchell pleaded guilty and was sentenced to up to 7 years in prison. The prison's warden and a dozen other staff members were fired or disciplined. An investigation by the New York State Inspector General produced a damning 150-page report detailing 101 distinct security failures, from broken sensors to guards literally sleeping on the job. The total cost to taxpayers for overtime and prison upgrades ballooned to an estimated $23 million, and the reputation of escape-proof prisons everywhere. That was shattered for good. Section 9. Psychology of the inside job. Experts call this the inside job paradox. The more time staff spend with inmates, the more they begin to see their humanity, blurring the lines between keeper and kept. Studies show that after 5 years, staff empathy for inmates doubles. After 15, a significant number of officers admit they might bend the rules under enough pressure, financial, personal, or simple burnout. These are the cracks in the armor. In Tilly's case, it was a perfect storm of debt, a stale marriage, and 2 master manipulators who knew exactly how to fan the reliefs of her loneliness. The system trusted her seniority, she trusted their lies. In the end, everybody lost. Section 10. Aftermath and Reform. Today, Clinton Correctional steam pipes are lined with fiber optic sensors that can text an alarm to officials in Albany in seconds. Civilian staff are rotated every 6 months to prevent the kind of overfamiliarity that led to the escape. There are now random financial audits for employees. But even with these upgrades, inmates still watch, wait, and search for the next vulnerability. Because prisons run on routine, and routine is the perfect environment for human weakness to take root. As one warden put it, we're one bad day, one bad marriage, one bribe away from the next headline. If stories of epic security fails make your jaw hit the floor, do us a favor and slam that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We drop new mind-bending breakdowns of impossible breaches every single week, and you won't want to miss what goes wrong next. Section 11. Could it happen again? The short answer: absolutely. In 2022, an inmate in Mississippi waltzed out of a facility wearing a stolen guard uniform during a shift change. Nobody even blinked. In 2023, a kitchen worker in Ohio was caught smuggling fentanyl in soup cauldrons. These incidents all prove the same point: you can have the best gadgets and the thickest walls, but the biggest wild card always walks on 2 legs and collects a paycheck. The weak link isn't the technology, it's always us. Section 12. Personal angle. Put yourself in their shoes for a second. You've just pulled a brutal 12-hour shift, you're bone-tired, and your mortgage is late. Then, someone who seems to really get your struggle offers you $5,000 cash just to look the other way for a few seconds. It's easy to say we'd never do it. But psychology shows that under extreme stress, those moral lines we draw for ourselves can become dangerously blurry. That's why prisons are now investing in employee resilience training and support hotlines to protect their staff, and by extension, their walls. But it's a constant battle against human nature. Section 13. Closing the loop. So the next time you see a pack of ground beef, remember this story. Remember that frozen meat once carved a path to freedom through solid steel in a century of so-called security. 2 murderers vanished because a lonely seamstress wanted to feel special, and a series of tired, complacent guards trusted routine more than their own eyes. Clinton Correctional still stands stronger than ever, but the myth of the escape-proof prison died on that June night in 2015 when one weak link snapped and the whole world heard it. Every security system ever built, from digital firewalls to ancient fortresses, is only as strong as its most human element. It's always just one moment of temptation, one lapse in judgment, one block of frozen hamburger meat away from total collapse. The escape of Richard Matt and David Sweat was a brutal reminder that you can't build a wall high enough to keep out loneliness or greed. And until someone invents a foolproof patch for human nature, the next great escape story is already being written. Probably in a place you've never heard of, maybe with an item you have in your own kitchen. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and never, ever underestimate the power of a determined mind with nothing to lose. What do you think is the key to stopping the next inside job? Drop your theories in the comments below. Smash that like button if you learned something new. and share this video with anyone who thinks a prison break like this is just movie fiction. Thanks for watching, and remember, bars are strong, but people, for better or for worse, are always stronger.